The Speaker of the House has been ousted. Donald Trump has been gagged. DiFi's dollars are in the news and more. Stay tuned, everybody. Hey, for the best meat you have ever eaten, check out samsbutchershop.com. Go and shop around. When you go to checkout, enter the promo code Triple T for a 5% discount. Check it out. Good morning, everybody. Trailer Trash Tim. How's your mama and them? I'm so glad you've joined me on this wonderful Wednesday morning. It's a little chilly. I'm a little bundled up here in Alabama. Thank you so much for coming, and I just want to quickly say a big thank you to Alex and Alexander from the Duran yesterday who had me on their program. Wonderful channel, the Duran. I highly recommend it. I've been watching it for some time. And I was honored to be their guest yesterday. If you have not yet seen that video, you can find it. Just go on over after this video to the Duran website and click on the live tab, and you'll be able to see the interview they did with me yesterday. Thoroughly enjoyed the experience. Just great guys. I think highly of them. I also want to say thank you and welcome to so many of you who kind of migrated over to the Triple T channel. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really glad you're here. Man, I've had so many contacts and so many people that just absolutely blew up my X or Twitter. I guess we have to start calling it X now. Thank you for following me. You can find me on X. I'm active there. Pretty much off of Facebook. I'm just pretty much done with that in their overreaching style where they just want to edit everything you say. You know, it's just ridiculous. But X is a little better, I think. I also want to say that a lot of people have encouraged me to also migrate material over to Rumble. I'm in the process of doing that. I do have a Rumble channel. It is not as current as YouTube right now, but I am aware that as we go along in this process and as we grow, that it's going to be necessary to get on alternative channels because of the nature of my content, where you can't say words like this, things of that nature, unfortunately, but that's just the way of the world these days. So I'm still working on Rumble to get it current, get all my content current. But I am there. You can go ahead and follow me there if you so choose. And I'm still working. I'm not a geek. I'm not technical at all. And I'm having to kind of learn on the fly some things that are foreign to me, you know. But I'm working on Rumble. It's time consuming to do all these things because, you know, I'm not complaining here, but most of you realize I have a full-time job and it requires a lot of my time. And my whole, all of my efforts on social media on this channel is requiring a good bit of time turning this into a part-time job because I do a lot of reading, a lot of research, a lot of study, a lot of preparation, and the actual shooting of the shows. I'm not complaining. Believe me, I love it. It's a labor of love, and I'm happy to do it. I just want to do this full-time, so share all this with your friends and family and your enemies and everybody. And as we grow the channel, maybe it'll turn into something that'll be a full-time operation for me. That's the hope anyway. All right, let's get going. I got a lot to talk about today. Our tip, obviously, the headline has got to be Kevin McCarthy, the former now Speaker of the House of Representatives in Washington, was ousted yesterday. Now, the position of Speaker in American politics, for those of you watching in other countries, is very important. It is actually third in line in terms of succession to the presidency. If the president was ousted for some reason or left, then the vice president would take over. If something happened to the vice president, then the Speaker of the House becomes president. So it's fairly important, at least in terms of succession. And of course, it's a powerful position anyway. It is the Speaker of the House who chooses people to chair committees and of course brings bills to the floor and all this kind of thing. McCarthy, just a deep state critter, a swamper. He's a Republican, but he's also a thoroughly neocon. he's one of these swamp creatures, a government employee for life, basically. And these people, so many of them, just become tone deaf to their constituents, many of their constituents anyway. And so another congressman from Florida by the name of Matt Gaetz, who's a pretty good guy, Matt Gaetz brought a motion to the floor to vacate the office of Speaker. Now, let's go back in time to understand why we got to this point yesterday. Earlier in the year, in the month of January, when the new Congress was being established after the most recent elections, congressional representatives are elected every 2 years, as opposed to the presidency, which is every 4 years. So every 2 years we have a new Congress, and when they meet, they vote to elect their leaders and whatnot. So McCarthy, the Democrats held the Congress, the last Congress, but because of the last election, the GOP, the Republican Party, took over Congress, and so it fell to the Republicans to nominate a new Speaker of the House. Nancy Pelosi was ousted by virtue of election. There was no way that she was going to be Speaker anymore, because what happens in these elections is whoever the ruling party is, the Republicans or Democrat, the Speaker is going to come from the majority party. So there was no way Pelosi was going to have enough support, obviously, among the Republican side of the House. So she was obviously going to be gone, going to be evicted, as it were, or defeated, or she lost her job. That's the bottom line. So obviously the Speaker was going to be from the Republican Party, because no Democrat would vote for any Republican that was nominated. Well, people like Matt Gaetz and a few others, maybe about a dozen other GOP congressional representatives, were trying to get some that was more, shall we say, more of a populist, or more of a more hardcore right-wing conservative. And what typically happens here is they always seem to settle on what I would call a milquetoast or palatable candidate to be a Speaker of the House, as McCarthy was and is. So Gaetz was holding up the election of McCarthy, and it went through, as if memory serves, they had 14 rounds of nominating and voting to put a Speaker in. And McCarthy was nominated every time, but he could never get the votes required to assume the chair. So they had to keep going and going, because these 8 or 10 or 12 renegades or mavericks or rogues were in the GOP kept holding up the process of electing McCarthy, because they would nominate other congressmen, such as Byron Donalds of Florida. Well, what eventually happened was that McCarthy and his group and other members of the caucus met privately out of the camera range in another room with McCarthy. And basically they said, the only way we will vote for you, and he had to have their votes, he said, the only way we will vote for you if you give us certain guarantees that you will abide by, things you will promise to do that you will abide by, before we will support you for Speaker. I don't know what all the requirements were, but a lot of them had to do with fiscal issues. They wanted McCarthy to begin to work to cut spending and attack the debt of the United States, which is unfathomable. Well, to make a long story short, they weren't satisfied. Gaetz particularly was not satisfied that McCarthy was doing the job, and so he finally said, enough, I've had it. And so he brought this motion to the floor yesterday. This thing happened quickly. I was talking to Alex and Alexander about this yesterday. They were asking me what I thought was going to happen, and I think I told them it was possible McCarthy could be ousted. I had no idea it would happen so quickly, but it was bam, bam, bam yesterday. McCarthy brought this motion to the floor to vacate, and he got enough votes from his group of rogues to support him. All the Democrats naturally supported him, and McCarthy was voted out. So here we are. McCarthy was tossed out, and there's something I want to get to, because Gates spoke during the, they have times where they can all speak. They'll make a motion, and then everybody will have a chance to speak that wants to. But there was a really telling moment during one of McCarthy's speeches after he made his motion. And there was a moment while he was speaking when, while he was speaking, he was being booed, not by the Democrats, who were probably looking at this whole thing with amusement, but he was being booed by some members of the GOP. And they were booing him, and when they booed him, he said, "You can boo all you want." Why were they booing? They were booing because they did not agree with what he was doing. But this is what he said in response to them. He said, "Boo all you want. Too many," this was terrific, "too many were willing to grovel and bend the knee to lobbyists and special interests." And while he said that, they were booing him. Let me tell you, that was some really bad optics for the Republicans in Congress, because Gates is exactly right. This is what happens in Congress. These people get into power, and then they open their office doors and let all the lobbyists come in and influence them. Lobbyists from Big Pharma, you name it, lobbyists from any special interest in America. They'll come in many instances, shall we say, because we don't know for sure, but we know, if you know what I mean. They'll come in with their pockets full of cash, and they'll say things like, "Look, if you'll vote our way on this particular bill, we'll make your life a little bit better." That's how it works. Dr. Ron Paul, when he was a member of Congress, refused to entertain lobbyists. He wouldn't even see them. God bless that man. So they were booing him while he said that. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of Americans were watching this, and he's absolutely right. I said it on the program on the Duran yesterday, and it's absolutely the truth. In the United States, we have a uniparty, generally speaking, with rare exception. Democrats and Republicans are birds of the same feather. Or is that how you say that? They're pretty much the same. Okay, they're all sold out to lobbyists and special interests, by and large, regardless of party. But you do have a good few faithful members in the Republican Party who won't play the game, and Gates is one of them. So anyway, I hope Americans will remember the boos at the next election. Okay, so what's next? Who's going to be the next speaker? Now, this will probably commence today in terms of having to seat a speaker. McCarthy left, and his hand-picked assistant, if you will, was a man by the name of Patrick McHenry. And Patrick McHenry moved into the speaker's chair in what is called a pro tempore role. So he's got the gavel right now, but he's not the speaker. He's just filling in until a new election is held, which I assume is going to start today. So who's going to be the next speaker? Well, here are some of the names that are being bantied about. Obviously, it will not be a Democrat, but the fact of the matter is, the Speaker of the House technically does not have to be a member of the House. Any American citizen can technically be elected Speaker. I suppose as long as he or she doesn't have a felony conviction or something of that nature. There was talk yesterday of Donald Trump being elected Speaker of the House. I don't see that happening at all. I think Trump has a bigger agenda on his mind. But some of the names that we're hearing are currently members of the House. Steve Scalise is one name being mentioned. Patrick McHenry, who took over, could be a candidate, but I wouldn't expect that. Technically speaking, Kevin McCarthy could run again, but and be elected if he so chose. But he has already announced he will not run for Speaker again. Another name to watch is Elise Stefanik. a Republican member from the state of New York, Byron Donalds from the state of Florida. Another name to watch, I would love to have this gentleman as Speaker of the House, but I don't think it's going to happen because he's just so vocal an opponent of the deep state in the Biden administration. He's a good congressman. And that would be Jim Jordan of Florida. Jim Jordan of Ohio. Jordan would make an excellent speaker, but I don't expect that he would be elected to the post. Newt Gingrich, past Speaker of the House, was just outraged and said that Matt Gaetz should be expelled from Congress. Well, good luck with that, you deep state critter. Let's move on. Let's talk about DiFi's dollars. Who is DiFi? DiFi is the late senator from the commie state of California. Diane Feinstein was 90 years old when she assumed a room temperature last week at the age of 90. And we're finding some things out. We already knew she was a commie, of course, and she's already been replaced. Gavin Newsom has already replaced her from a resident of Maryland, if you will. Of course, nobody's saying anything about that, except trailertrashtim and a few others. But LaFonza Butler is the new senator. She's already been sworn in, and she will complete the remainder of DiFi's term until they have a new election in California next year. Pardon me, I need a little coffee. Your mouth gets dry doing this, you know. So next year you've got people like Pencil Neck Geek, Adam Schiff running, but LaFonza Butler is going to fill the term, and she'll probably run again, undoubtedly. But Diane Feinstein, we are learning what all she has left behind to her survivors. Now, the salary, I want you to bear in mind, for members of Congress is $190,000 and $190,909 annually. That's what members of Congress make from the taxpayers, of course. Now, senator's salary, I should have looked that up, and I didn't. I think the Senate makes more than that, probably considerably more. But that's what members of the House make every year. But I want you to look at what Diane Feinstein left behind. Get this. Diane Feinstein, good senator from California, left behind a $60 million Gulfstream private jet. She also left behind a $21 million home in San Francisco. Oh, but wait, there's more. She also left behind a $7.5 million home in Washington, D.C. She also left behind a $5 million home in Hawaii and, drumroll, $70 million in the bank. $70 million in the bank. That is astounding. You say, well, wait a minute now. If their salary, a senator's salary, I don't know, let's just say it's $300,000 a year, whatever it is. I should have looked it up. I apologize. How on earth, if you made $1 million a year as a senator, how on earth can you afford a $60 million Gulfstream jet, a $21 million San Francisco home, a $7.5 million Washington, D.C. home, a $5 million Hawaiian home, and $70 million in cash? How can you do that? That's some savvy investing, isn't it? Well, this is how these things work, folks. You could parallel Diane Feinstein's situation to that of Nancy Pelosi. The ledger sheet is very similar. Where do these people get all this money? Well, this is how these things work. It's not that complicated, but the money, with a wink and a nod, doesn't go to them per se. The money will go, often in these scenarios, to their spouse, don't you know. Diane Feinstein's husband is said to have made all this money. Nancy Pelosi's husband is said to be a man of great wealth and an investment banker and what have you. That's where they say all the money comes from. I'm going to tell you that is utter nonsense. Now, their husbands may be good at making money. I don't know. But what I do know is this. It goes back to what I was talking about a few minutes ago. These people are bought and paid for by lobbyists, by corporations that pad their pockets and get them to vote the way they want them to vote. That's how this works, okay? Now, the money doesn't technically go to them per se. It may go to their spouse. But the bottom line is they reap the benefits of this exorbitant amount of cash. It is so corrupt to be almost unimaginable. But that's the way this stuff works. These people are so corrupt. They are so evil. All I can say to DiFi is good riddance, and I'm glad you're no longer there. But of course, this will simply be repeated now with LaFonza Butler. It'll just happen over and over again. These people go into Congress with relative modest wealth, and they leave Congress when they die multi-millionaires. That should tell you everything you need to know about it. Let's move on. Judge Arthur Engoron, Scrooge. I've showed you his picture before. Who is Judge Engoron? Judge Engoron is the judge in New York who is presiding over one of the Trump trials. This would be the civil trial that has been brought before him. He's the one who has claimed that Trump has defrauded banks and lenders by overinflating his personal wealth and the value of his properties. Well, yesterday, Judge Engoron put a gag order on Donald Trump. I don't want to get too deep into the story here. This was on CNN. God help us. But Judge Arthur Engoron rebuked Trump after the former president attacked his clerk in a social media post on Tuesday and forbade the parties from making any future comments about his staff. Trump he didn't tweet. Trump was on his social media, Truth Social, and he made a post about Engoron's clerk. And this is what he said. He said she was a girlfriend to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, a New York Democrat, and he showed a picture of them together. Trump said, "How disgraceful. This case should be dismissed immediately," and he's exactly right about that. Imagine this, if you will. Imagine the playground bully. That would be Engoron, not Trump. That would be Engoron. Trump has had all these frivolous lawsuits brought against him. They're absolutely asinine. They make no sense. These people in the deep state, folks, I'm telling you, are doing everything in their power to keep Trump from this election. I told you the other day, and it's the truth. They're trying to do to Trump what they did to this man without the bloodshed. But hey, anything's on the table with these people, believe me. They're pulling out all the stops. The Justice Department has been weaponized against the former president. They are doing everything to keep him out of the White House. He is so far ahead in the polls. Were the election held today, I don't have no doubt that if it were fair at all, that Trump would win handily. But this judge is slapping the gag order on Trump. But I want you to imagine the playground bully. That would be Engoron. He just pushes and pushes and pushes his way around, bullying all the smaller kids, and finally one of the kids fights back, and he fights back against the bully. Well, the kid who fights back against the bully now is being demonized. Trump had the nerve to fight back against Engoron, and Engoron slaps the gag order on him. To me, this is hysterical, because in the United States, we have something called the First Amendment, and this judge is telling Trump, don't post on social media anymore. Don't say anything about this anymore. You keep your mouth shut anymore. How many of you think Trump's going to keep his mouth shut? How many of you think Trump is going to stop posting on social media? Yeah, good luck with that. He's not going to, nor should he. We have the First Amendment in this country. We have the right to free speech. The deep state doesn't like it. That's why they put all the J6 protesters in prison, because they chose to exercise their First Amendment right. But Trump isn't a nobody. Trump is a former president, and he's got a voice, and you're not going to shut this man up. I don't care what you do. You can put all the gag orders on him that you want. Trump's not going to shut up, and everybody knows it. So Engoron is just being a bully, and he's just lashing out at Trump, doing everything he can to shut him up. But Trump's not going to shut up, and good for him. He should not. All right, I want to get to one last story here before I can run a little long. Well, let me get to this because I really want to cover what happened yesterday with John Kirby, who is the coordinator for strategic communications at the White House National Security Council. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Well, yesterday, John Kirby lost his temper when he was asked a question by a reporter for the Eternal Word television network. It's a Roman Catholic satellite television network. It's based here in Birmingham, Alabama, actually. Many of you know that Senator Tuberville of Alabama has been holding up military promotions which have to be approved by the Senate. And the reason he's been holding them up is because he is protesting a policy where the Pentagon will pay for service members to travel to states which offer abortion services. They'll cover the expense of this, and Tuberville is opposed to this policy, and he is basically saying U.S. taxpayers should not be forced to pay for members of the military who are seeking abortions. This is just absolutely absurd. And he's right about that. So many Americans have a moral objection to abortion. And, you know, if we're going to have abortion, we're simply saying, okay, we don't want to have to pay for your abortion. But this is what's happening. The military, the American military, has a policy of paying for the expense that is accrued in seeking these abortions in other states. And Kirby was asked about this yesterday, and he lost his cool. And I want you to hear what he said. This is outrageous. I don't want to read the whole thing. He said, people volunteer for the military, and when they volunteer, they have every right to expect they're going to get the health care that they need. You see, in the deep state's mind, in the Democrats' mind, particularly many Republicans, abortion is health care. I don't think of abortion as being health care. I don't think it falls under that banner, okay? And let me tell you, he continued, a healthy force is a ready force. Really? Have you seen the West Point photos, Kirby? So don't talk to me about national security being impaired. The one impairing national security is Senator Tuberville. Not only because he's depriving the military of necessary leadership in the field and at sea, but he's also willing to deprive female members of the military, 20% of the force, from necessary health care. That, both, is a violation of national security. I have long maintained abortion is not health care. You can probably ascertain what I believe abortion is. It is the taking of an innocent human life. That is what abortion is. And you may disagree, and you're fine to you're right. You have a right to disagree, but you're never going to convince me otherwise, folks. Regardless of your views, abortion is definitely not health care. Hell, it's certainly not health care for the child. So, John Kirby, you, old buddy, can just go pound sand. Senator Tuberville, I'll stand up and applaud you, sir, because taxpayers should not be forced to finance such a procedure. It's simply, we have a moral objection to it. One last thing and I'll close. Thank you for staying with me. There's a lot of things going on, and the headline, of course, is what I led with, which is McCarthy being ousted. But folks, Washington, D.C. is kabuki theater, okay? It's like a ruse. It's a sideshow. It's a freak show. And there's so many things done in Washington that are designed to divert our attention from the real issues of the day, okay? That's what it's all about. Everything is a diversion. They always want to, the media, which I talked about yesterday, the media creates stories. A lot of them are not stories, but they're flashy things. A lot of them often include Hollywood celebrities. These things are designed to take our eyes off of what's happening, what's really happening, what's really important. They'll throw in a story about Prince Harry or Meghan Markle or the Kardashians or this actor or that actor, which is all fluff. It's bubblegum. It's nonsense. Let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, to please, particularly those of you in America and in the West, but anywhere around the world, here's my advice to you. Keep your eye on the ball. Keep your eye and your attention focused on what is really important. Well, what's really important, Trailer Trash Tim? Let me submit to you what's really important. Number one, let me just continue. Number one is the corruption of the deep state. That is paramount, folks. We have got to keep our eye on the corruption and speak out about it, as I'm doing on my channel. Alex and Alexander yesterday asked me about the most important issues facing us with the looming election. And this is what I told them, and it's true. I'll repeat it again. We need to keep our eye on the ball in terms of Biden corruption, the Biden crime family, the collusion with the regime in Ukraine, all the phony investments, and the tainted money that was made by Hunter Biden with Burisma. So much of this money in amounts that are staggering, 20, 30, I've heard some estimates of $50 million, so much it went into the pockets of the big guy, don't you know? We need to focus on that, keep our attention on the Biden crime family. We need to focus and keep our attention on the debt, the overwhelming, debilitating debt of the United States, the ungodly, monstrous spending that we do. We're in debt $33 trillion. We're cutting nothing. We have got to keep our mind and our focus and our attention on the porous border in America, southern and northern border, and the deluge of illegal aliens coming across our border yesterday. Somebody on the Duran, I noticed yesterday, called me racist because I hate Mexican people. Where you get this, I have no idea. I'm talking about illegal aliens who are breaking immigration laws and entering the country illegally. I'm not talking about good people. I'm talking about criminals by and large. I understand there are some people in desperate situations. It is sad, and my heart and sympathies go out to such people. But we have laws, folks. We have got to maintain our laws. A lot of these people coming across our border are evil. They have evil intent for America. And of course, it's fine with the president. He's just fine with having all these illegal aliens coming across the border so we can flip Texas into being a blue state. And if we lose Texas, they have so many electoral votes, we'll lose the country. It's as simple as that. Remember the Alamo? Remember the border. Don't forget the border. And finally, we have got to keep our eyes and our attention on the Ukrainian debacle. All the billions and billions of taxpayer dollars going to the corrupt Zelensky regime. I would venture that it's possible Zelensky is not long for his position. Now, he might be replaced by another puppet, but I think he may be past his expiration date. I don't think he's being very effective. His last tour to Washington and Canada and Poland was a disaster. But of course, we're still sending him money, hand over fist, gobs of money. That's what's going on in the news. Folks, thank you so much for watching. Be so kind as to give me a thumbs up on this video. I would really appreciate that. Let's get the algorithm going crazy. If you have not subscribed, welcome to our hundreds, I think thousands of new subscribers we gained yesterday. I'm so glad to have you here with us. Make sure if you have not yet subscribed and you're watching this video to subscribe. I post a video every day, and I'm glad to have you with us. Follow me on all the relevant links down below, all the contact information, the PayPal, the Buy Me a Coffee, all that is down below. Avail yourself of that. Go in and follow me on Twitter, and we can talk all day long. How about that? This is Trailer Trash Tim. I'm so glad you're here with me, and I will see you all tomorrow.